Welcome back. Tensions are high in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This as a result of delays in vote counting after presidential elections. According to AFP, the UN Security Council is holding a closed-door meeting this evening on the issue. This will be the first test for South Africa in its current term on the Council. For more on this, I'm joined by Professor of International Relations at the University of the Witwatersrand, John Stremlau. Thank you so much for coming through, Prof. So, I mean, if it's raised the attention of France requesting that the UN Security Council should meet over this election in Congo, it's pretty serious, isn't it?
It's very serious. This is a critical moment for the Congo and for Africa, and South Africa invested very, very heavily in the peace process back in 2005, 2006, remember, that led to the first election of Joseph Kabila. And he's overstayed his welcome, and it appears from what I hear from Kinshasa, I'm on the board of the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa. They've been supporting the African Union's mission there. Talking with the churches and the other groups of civil society, it appears that Kabila's candidate has not, in fact, won this election. And so that it'll either be Felix Tshisekedi, who is the son of the former opposition leader, or Martin Fayulu, who is a leading opposition candidate. And you don't have to win a majority, just a plurality, so that what we want to have now is for Seni to release the results, that is the electoral management body, and for calm to prevail, and for Kabila to accept the results.
Kind of hard for calm to prevail where you have a situation where the internet has been switched off, and I suppose that's part of what the UN Security Council will be discussing. The internet cut off, and reports of, for instance, Radio France International, the signal being jammed there.
Exactly, and that really should be a call from the UN Security Council to lift the embargo on the internet, to press for a quick release of the voting. You know, they had all these expensive electoral voting machines, and while several thousand of them were destroyed in a fire, a very suspicious fire in Kinshasa a couple of weeks ago, nevertheless, it does appear, from what I've been hearing from the civil society and church groups, that have a parallel vote count, but it's a sample. They won't release before the Seni releases. That, in fact, Emmanuel Chandere, the candidate of Kabila, the former Minister of Interior, has not, by any stretch of the imagination, won this election. But we'll have to see what the results are. They're supposed to be out on Sunday, and now the electoral management body is saying maybe it'll be a couple of days later than that. The UN Security Council ought to press very, very hard for a transparent and immediate release as soon as possible.
So how much of a test is it then, Prof, for South Africa in its first meeting in the UN Security Council, in as far as this term is concerned, of the rotational seat is concerned? South Africa says this time around human rights will be at the forefront of decision making. Here's a first test case.
Well, it is an important test case, but don't forget South Africa has already endorsed the SADC view that these were generally peaceful elections, and the African Union was more forward-leaning about challenging the incumbents to go along with the results than was SADC. So I think this is an opportunity for South Africa to issue a plea for calm, for the UN Security Council to call for a full and transparent and immediate, as soon as possible, release of the results, and that the internet should be unbanned, and that we should move on now to a more stable and peaceful Congo.
If the situation is as you are hearing, in as far as the electoral outcome is concerned, how much of a test does that become for the region, SADC? Because SADC has been saddled with this issue of the Congo for a good, 18 years or so, or even more, in various interventions, including military interventions at one point. This, what you're talking about now, would be a scenario where power, actually, there's an actual transition where it shifts from one political party peacefully, hopefully, to another political party. How much nursing would SADC need to do? How much nursing would South Africa and other continental leaders need to do?
Well, you framed it very well, because the people of the Congo turned out in vast numbers and voted rather peacefully in most every case that apparently was reported upon, even though in the eastern region with Ebola and with the violence in some of the other communities, it's been difficult to get a full reading. But by and large, this was a demonstration of the citizens of the Congo, what South Africa worked so hard for in that Sun City Agreement and for the peaceful transition, to now go the next step and accept the results and make that plain, that if the incumbent party loses, it must accept the results, and this will be a historic turning point for Africa and for the Congo people.
Prof, before I let you go, I can't have you here and not take advantage of your knowledge and understanding of U.S. politics. Yesterday, the swearing in of the new Congress and Nancy Pelosi taking over the speaker position there, but it comes in the midst of this federal government shutdown, and that looks set to continue. Is it your sense that the United States is well and truly in the area of gridlock, almost permanent gridlock, with a Congress controlled by the Democrats, Senate controlled by the Republicans, and Donald Trump doing what he's doing at the White House?
We will see. There's going to be another White House meeting on Friday, and Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in the new majority in the House of Representatives, which, by the way, is much more representative of pluralistic America. There are only 38% white males in that side of the aisle, and they're 90% in the Republicans. And what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have said is, let's have a clean bill for the 6 departments that are not affected by this issue of the wall, and Homeland Security should be negotiated, but let's get the Republicans and the Democrats in the Senate to pass a clean budget bill so that these 800,000 workers can go back to their jobs and get paid fairly as they deserve to be. And then we can negotiate on how to get border security, but forget this crazy idea about building a wall, which was something that Trump originally said was going to cost $25 billion, and the Mexicans were going to pay for it. So everyone's holding their breath to see what Trump will do, and they're pushing Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, to go ahead and accept a clean bill, but his own ranks are starting to break on him. So we'll see in the next couple of days. It's a very critical moment in American democratic growth and development.
All right, Professor John Stremlau, thank you so much for coming through and sharing your insights with us here on Newsnight. That was Professor John Stremlau from Wits University.